내가 서달미 씨를 좋아해요.
You're watching the female lead choose that guy, the one who was cold to her, the one who made her cry multiple times. And somewhere off to the side, practically glowing, is the other guy, the one who was there, the one who actually deserved her. Yeah. We're talking about second leads today. Specifically, the ones who didn't just hold their own, they completely took over. We've got 13 of them. And honestly, some of these still sting. Let's get into it. Number 13. Chae Jong-hyeop, Sisyphus the Myth. Let's start with one that doesn't get talked about enough. Sisyphus the Myth was a lot. Time travel, parallel universes, a plot that made you feel like you needed a whiteboard just to follow along. But here's the thing. While everyone was trying to figure out what was happening with the timeline, a lot of us were just quietly fixated on Sun, his character. The guy who used to work in a restaurant somehow ends up wealthy, and through all of it stays completely devoted to the female lead. There's this quality he has on screen, a warmth, a groundedness, that made Sun feel more real than anything else in that show, including the actual plot. Fans online kept describing him as having golden retriever energy, which sounds reductive until you watch him and realize, yeah, that's exactly it, but with layers. The main lead was busy being a genius saving the world. And sure, that's impressive on paper. But Sun was the one making you feel something. Every scene he was in, the show suddenly made sense. Which, considering how chaotic Sisyphus got, is honestly the highest compliment I can give. Number 12. Byun, Mr. Sunshine. This one is genuinely complicated to talk about, because Mr. Sunshine is a masterpiece. Lee Byung-hun is a legend. The whole show is a slow, devastating work of art. And yet, Kim Hee-sung, Byun-han's character, the nobleman who dressed like he walked out of a 1900s fashion catalog and somehow made a pocket watch and a period-accurate mustache look incredible. What made him so compelling wasn't just the look, though. It was the layers underneath it. He played Hee-sung as someone using humor and charm as armor, hiding a family history that clearly weighed on him. His love for Go-Asian was completely selfless, almost heartbreakingly so. There's a scene where he's just standing near some flowers, looking gorgeous and completely wrecked at the same time, and I genuinely had to collect myself. Fans called it his sad clown era, and that's not wrong. He was the one who understood that sometimes being kind in a brutal world is the heroic choice. His ending hit hard. I don't want to spoil it, but bring tissues. Seriously. Number 11. Choi Jin-hyuk, The Last Empress. Okay, The Last Empress was chaotic television, like reality TV meets palace drama levels of unhinged, and I mean that as a compliment. It was wild. But the anchor of all that chaos was Choi Jin-hyuk as Na Wang-sik, a man who literally rebuilt himself, physically and mentally, to go after revenge. He had this intense, quiet masculinity that made the actual emperor look like someone having a tantrum in a very expensive room. And then, and this is where I still get mad, scheduling conflicts happened. They wrote him out, off-screen. After 40-plus episodes of watching him be the most compelling reason to keep watching, they just removed him. The show pivoted to a villain redemption arc instead, and I fast-forwarded through basically everything after he disappeared, because nothing felt right without him. He was the reason the story had stakes, the reason the romance felt earned, and losing him that late in the game was honestly insulting to everyone who'd invested that much time. He deserved a real ending. We all did.
So many of you asked about this mug. It's officially my designated binge watch cup.
I truly believe the small things make the biggest difference in our daily rituals. If you love this soft aesthetic as much as I do, you can find this mug and the rest of the collection in our shop. Treat yourself to something that makes your coffee break feel like a scene from a drama. Number 10. Kim Min-jae, Hit the Top. Hit the Top has one of the wilder premises in K-drama history. A 90s idol travels through time, and it turns out he's technically the father of the second lead, which means the love triangle is already complicated before anyone even says hello. But Kim Min-jae as Lee Ji-hoon was the one who felt real in all of it. He played a trainee, hardworking, a little quiet, putting everything he had into a dream that wasn't guaranteed. Here's the thing about Kim Min-jae that the show used really well. He has this deep, raspy voice that doesn't match what you'd expect from his face at all, and the contrast is genuinely arresting. The chemistry between him and Lee Se-young had this sweet, grounded quality. Childhood friends who'd grown up together, who knew each other's habits and history. Against a time-traveling pop star who couldn't figure out a smartphone, Ji-hoon was stable, present, and real. I know fated love almost always wins in K-dramas. I know that. But watching him get passed over romantically felt like the show was actively ignoring the more interesting story sitting right in front of it. Number 9. Hae-in, While You Were Sleeping. If there is a textbook case of second lead syndrome, like a case study they'd use in a class, it's Hae-in in While You Were Sleeping. Han Woo-tak, the police officer with the quiet secret, became the character everyone was talking about, and it wasn't hard to see why. The uniform helped, not gonna lie. The hospital scene, you know the one, briefly broke the internet when it aired. But strip all that away, and what you still have is a character who was loyal, brave, and aching with a love he never pushed. There's a moment where he takes a photo of their shadows together because that's the closest he can get to holding her hand. And that image has lived in my head rent-free ever since. Lee Jung-suk is fantastic in this show. That's not the argument. The argument is that Jung Hae-in walked in and became the breakout star almost by accident, and the fan response was so intense it turned into a cultural moment. He smiled once and people lost it. Why did they do this to us? Genuinely asking. Number 8. So Kang-jun, Cheese in the Trap. Full disclosure, Cheese in the Trap came with behind-the-scenes drama that was almost as messy as its actual plot. But let's talk about what was on screen, because Baek-in-ho, So Kang-jun's character, was something else. He was loud where the main lead was cold, messy where the main lead was calculated. He wore his emotions on his sleeve and had this undeniable energy with Kim Go-in that felt completely alive. The production actually started giving him more screen time than the main lead, which genuinely outraged fans of the original webtoon. And honestly, for people watching without that context, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like the show following its own instincts. His storyline about reclaiming his relationship with the piano was moving in a way that had nothing to do with the romance. He was trying to rebuild himself, and that struggle was so human. The ending of the drama is a whole conversation I don't have the energy for today, but I'll say this. In-ho was the reason I kept going. He was the reason the show felt worth finishing. Number 7. Yook Sung-jae, Who Are You? School 2015. This might be the most debated second lead in K-drama history. Not an exaggeration. Bring up School 2015 in any drama forum right now and watch what happens. Gong Tae-kwang, played by Yook Sung-jae, was the bad boy who actually saw the female lead. Not the version she performed for everyone else, but who she actually was. He was there during her worst moments. He made her laugh when she had no reason to. And that blonde hair and general rebellious with a soft center vibe, it worked. The fan wars were fierce and they lasted years. The main lead, Han Yen, was decent, fine even, but he never quite escaped feeling like the swimmer. That was basically his whole personality. Tae-kwang was the soul of the show, and when the finale made its choice, a lot of viewers felt like they'd been told something they didn't want to hear. Like the show picked the safe answer when the better story was right there. Yook Sung-jae made Tae-kwang feel like a real teenager, flawed, funny, and genuinely worth rooting for. Losing him romantically still stings, and I think it always will. Number 6. Kim Myung-soo, My Lovely Girl. Let's be honest about My Lovely Girl for a second. The premise, a man falling for his deceased ex-girlfriend's younger sister, was a tough sell even when it aired, and the show never quite figured out how to make it feel less uncomfortable. Rain is a legend in every other context, but in this role, the age gap and the overall dynamic made it difficult to fully invest in the main romance. And then there was L from Infinite as Shiwoo, an idol with some rough edges who was slowly figuring himself out, and whose chemistry with Crystal just worked in a way the show's central relationship didn't. He was youthful, persistent without being overbearing, and brought actual spark to scenes that might have otherwise been a little flat. I'll admit, I was checking my phone during the scenes he wasn't in. That's not a great sign for a main lead. Shiwoo felt like the right age, the right energy, the right story. He carried the romantic weight of that drama almost entirely on his own, and he looked good doing it. Number 5. Kang Min-hyuk, Entertainer. He has this quality that's genuinely hard to describe, a soulfulness that comes through even in quieter moments. In Entertainer, his character Hunnel has been through it. Falsely accused, family gone, just trying to find his way back to music. He's technically the little brother type in the story's dynamic, but there's this fierce protectiveness in him that sneaks up on you. The romance in Entertainer was one where the age gap between the main leads gave a lot of viewers pause, and that hesitation naturally pushed people toward Hunnel as the more emotionally compatible option. He and the female lead felt like equals. He was her peer, her protector, and watching him find his voice, on stage, in life, was genuinely moving. Every time he performed, the show remembered what it did best. And honestly, the underdog working to rebuild himself while being completely charming arc, that's not a second lead story. That should have been the whole show. Number 4. Kim Seon-ho, Startup. Look, I don't think anyone expected Han Ji-pyong to become the phenomenon he became. Startup had a clear main lead, a clear love story mapped out. And then Kim Seon-ho showed up with those dimples and a backstory about being an orphan who clawed his way to success, and the whole plan fell apart. He was the one who wrote the letters that built the foundation of the female lead's confidence and dreams. He was the more competent, more emotionally mature, more attractive option, and half the audience knew it immediately. Team Han Ji-pyong wasn't just a fandom preference, it was practically a movement. Watching him help the main couple, even when it hurt him personally, was the most selfless and most devastating thing the show did. I think the writers genuinely did not anticipate this reaction because the ending didn't budge, and viewers were not okay. Every time he sat in his expensive car looking quietly resigned, I felt that somewhere deep in my chest. Number 3. Park Hyung-sik, Hwarang. Hwarang was essentially a competition for who could look the best in traditional Silla Kingdom robes. And the answer, for a lot of fans, was Park Hyung-sik as Ji-dwi, the king in hiding. Park Seo-joon is a heavyweight. That's not up for debate. But there's something about a man carrying the secret weight of a crown while trying to win someone's heart that just hits differently. Ji-dwi had this regal, slightly dangerous loneliness to him. He wasn't just brooding for aesthetics. There was actual complexity there. A character who was isolated by his own identity and reaching towards something real. The long hair, the traditional robes, the way he looked in every single scene like he'd walked out of a historical painting, it was a lot to compete with. The bromance between him and Park Seo-joon was genuinely great, but the moment the show turned to romance, I was firmly on the king's side. Watching him fight for something as personal as love while managing a kingdom's worth of secrets, that's not a second lead story. That's a king story, and it deserved a different ending. Number 2. Kim Ji-hoon, Love to Hate You. Okay, this one's a slight technicality, because Kim Ji-hoon's character wasn't exactly pining for the main female lead. He had his own subplot going on. But second lead energy doesn't always mean unrequited love. Sometimes it just means you're the one everyone's watching. And that hair, that long, flowing hair, became its own conversation online. We're used to seeing Kim Ji-hoon in sharper, darker roles. If you've seen Flower of Evil, you know. So watching him lean into this charming, stylish entertainment CEO energy was genuinely refreshing. He walked into scenes and the show's center of gravity just shifted. Fans were rewinding his moments, analyzing his outfits, writing about his subplot like it was the main event. He had this playful sophistication that felt effortless without being distant, and his storyline honestly held more romantic tension than the central one for a chunk of viewers. That hair, those scenes, that presence, it deserved a spin-off. Someone make that happen. Number 1. Song Kang, Love Alarm. And here we are, the one that still has people upset years later. In season 1 of Love Alarm, Song Kang as Seon-ho was, there's no other way to say this, the main event. He was the wealthy, visually overwhelming lead who fell fast and completely. And the chemistry between him and Kim So-hin was the kind that makes you forget you're watching a show about an app. Then season 2 happened. The show followed the webtoon and gave her to the other guy, the safe choice, and the audience collectively fell apart. People were leaving 1-star reviews for the actual Love Alarm app, not the show, the app. That's how intense it got. Seon-ho's heartbreak felt visceral and real, and the show had spent so much time making viewers fall for him that the pivot felt almost cruel. It wasn't that Hae-young was a bad choice in theory. It's that Seon-ho was the reason the show worked. He was the reason people kept watching. And being told at the last second that you'd been cheering for the wrong person, still one of the most frustrating K-drama endings in recent memory. I am not over it. I don't expect to be. I want to know who you would add to this list. Drop it in the comments. And if you're in the mood for more, check out our last video, 12 Korean actors with green flag energy that makes fans fall hard.